It is 9 o'clock on March 26th. We'll call the Wright County Board of Commissioners to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. So has everybody got an opportunity to review the March 19th minutes? They were quite extensive, almost 20 pages.
I did it superficially, so I'll make a motion we approve the minutes unless somebody had any changes.
You didn't want to relive it twice through reading? All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, and there was a second by...
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Today's agenda, is there anything to add to remove on today's agenda?
Hey, good morning, Board. Hey, I just want to make sure we have a joint ditch meeting in McLeod and Renville and all those this Friday. So I just want to know if any board members intend to
And Mr. Chair, I was planning on attending, but I will not be able to make it now, so somebody could fill in. Do we need one person or two, or?
We can send whoever we want to send there.
Yeah, up to, I think we had 3 last time.
Right.
And Mr. Chair, I have Central Minnesota EMS, so I'm not going to be able to attend.
I have conflicting meetings in St. Paul at the same time.
I guess I'm going. He knows my kitty has a hangnail.
So just Commissioner Delight. We'll RSVP for you then.
All right.
Mr. Chair, that was the action item, so I don't know if you want to.
Mark, try not to get so excited.
Okay, I guess I'm going. No. Mr. Chair, with that, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Dahlhead. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Today's consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull anything from the consent agenda for further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is approved. We are right on time here for Dr. Quinn Strobel for the Chief Medical Examiner report.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for having me. Each year I come and present the summary of the deaths that occurred in Wright County that were reported to the medical examiner for the preceding year. So this is for 2018. So last year our office had 555 deaths reported to us. We performed 33 autopsies, which seems like it's the fewest. So Wright County had a somewhat more quiet year. Of those autopsies, 7 of them were in decedents who died of natural disease, and those people ranged in age from 2 months to 66 years. The 2-month-old had a congenital disease. There were 4 deaths due to motor vehicle crashes. 1 was a motorcyclist. They were half and half, male-female, and alcohol was present in 2 of those incidents. Yes, alcohol is a very dangerous. It causes crashes. It causes illness. Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter.
Mr. Chair. Doctor, be careful when you mention alcohol because Charlie's going to get on a soap.
Oh, I heard. We were on the box together actually earlier.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Potter, Commissioner Burrell did speak with Dr. Strobel prior to the meeting.
And I am in agreement.
We'll
Alcohol is just as bad
meeting.
as, yes, other drugs.
No,
Right.
it is.
And speaking of other drugs, there were 6 deaths in Wright County solely attributed to drugs or substance abuse. The majority, 5 out of the 6, were male. And then substances included fentanyl, the fentanyl analogs, methamphetamine, another narcotic, oxycodone, and heroin. As you'll notice, the number of substances outnumbers the total deaths. That's because sometimes the drugs are mixed, whether intentionally or unintentionally. And we are seeing an increase in the opioid deaths in the majority of our counties. There were no deaths classified as homicide last year by our office. There were 13 deaths attributed to suicide, the fewest in a few years. The decedents ranged in age from 17 to 88. And unfortunately, as is typical, the majority were male. And 5 of those deaths were due to gunshot wounds. Our office did approve 450 cremations last year. And that's the summary of my report. If there's any comments or questions.
Mr. Chair?
No.
You have to approve all cremations,
Yes.
and that's just because you want to make sure that there was nothing else before they destroy the body?
Correct, correct. Some of them, of course, have come in for an autopsy and then go for cremation, so we're already aware of those. But we do catch a few every year where the death wasn't reported to our office because they died in a nursing home or a hospital, and it should have been, and at least we get that one last step before the body is cremated to make sure that all the investigation is complete.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Strobo, the one thing that, I mean, it's still too high, but the suicides are on the downhill side, which is a good thing if we can try to prevent that, but it'd be nicer to get that under 10 for next, if we could. I mean, it's hard.
Absolutely.
It's a real hard number, but after seeing what it was the last few years, it's coming back down, which is a good, to me, a good sign, hopefully.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just had a question, because I thought we were on a, like, for accidents, traffic accidental deaths.
We are.
I mean, but was it last year it must have been right at the end of the year where we had these 4, because I thought we were no deaths for quite a few months into the year.
I think it was 3 motor vehicle crashes that resulted in death, and 2 were in one incident, correct? Or
I usually put that down if that was the case. It could have been, but normally I put that in there to try to make it sound a little bit better. Of course, I left that sheet in my car, which isn't going to do anybody any good.
The highway department, it was kind of like knock on wood, but it was
Right.
quite a bit into the year.
It was.
And we had not had a fatality, so
Right.
it must have been right at the end of the year. I suppose with the bad weather and things too, you know.
I mean, it's been a wonderful trend that
Yes,
fatalities in motor vehicle crashes, and
12 to 4. So 12 in 2014 and then steadily downward to 4. So let's do well this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do obviously, not really predictable.
Charlie, I understand what you're saying, because I was confused because of our, Commissioner Houston and I sit on the same committee in Wright County, and I thought, there was 0, and then I got a report the other day, and I
But
started looking at
it
it.
must have been towards the end of the year
it was
then,
at the
yeah.
end that, and I thought there was 3, so I'm
That's where
off.
I thought we were at.
I thought we were at 3 too, but yeah, there's certainly been great efforts with the Safe Communities of Wright County to
Definitely going
prevent.
in the right direction.
Definitely, and
Maybe you
actually-
don't count the farm machinery, because this one was a farm incident, so you may not count that.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
probably what it was.
It wasn't on a roadway.
Right, and I believe that none of these crashes actually occurred on county roads. They were on township roads or perhaps a freeway. So, yeah,
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
appreciate you coming and giving us this information.
Auditor Treasurer Bob Hevola.
Report. The first item on the agenda is the city is asking to take one of the tax forfeited parcels. This is in Albertville. They're going to take it for, they're going to economic development.
Tried on that one, Bob. Try the show image on that one. This one is not cooperating.
Commissioner Potter, did you have a statement, something to say? Yeah.
It's in a residential neighborhood.
For an economic development? I shouldn't
Yes,
laugh.
Mr. Chair, I'll chime in on this a little bit. I did talk to Adam Nafstead from the city of Alville about this property, because as you know, sitting on the tax forfeit committee, trying to clear up some of these things so we don't have to spend all this money going through this. This was part of a development that for some reason it left there because the person that owns the piece of property around it is different than the other property. And I think he was trying to acquire that at the time and didn't, so if you take that one from Landon Avenue parallel with that down, that would actually make 2 lots there. So that little one is just kind of, there was an assessment on it with the city, along with Mr. Becker across the street that owns that piece with the water on it. So some of the things that happened back then weren't quite as copacetic as they could have been, but talked with them about, because they turn it down to one time, say, come on, this is important to you, because when that property owner comes in, you can do a replat on those 2 lots, and then you got 2 legal lots, because otherwise it's just going to sit there in purgatory forever. And I know they're engaged in conversations with that adjoining landowner to acquire it, for that person to acquire it, or when that person sells that piece of property, and it was in a probate thing at some point in time, they'll be able to sell that and enhance that and make those 2 lots legit.
All right.
So, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Potter, so then at some point, the city's interest would be to have that as another buildable lot.
Correct. If you look at the property
To the
adjacent
south.
to it,
Yeah.
to the south,
Yeah.
if that line that parallels with land on the backside of those lots goes straight down,
Right.
then you'd have 2 legal lots.
Got it. Okay.
It's just trying to clean up, because every city's got a couple of these little messes in them. We're just trying to clean these up.
Okay.
Because like say, every time we look at a corporate property, it costs us money. So we're just trying to get rid of a lot of these, because by the time the lawyer looks at it, out of treasurer's office look at it, you put it in paper, and you have it costs money. Let's just clear some of these up and save ourselves and have their time spent elsewhere.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll move forth the resolution then supporting the conveyance of tax forfeit property, PID number 101-022000020 to the city of Albertville, and it's a resolution. So.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden on the resolution supporting conveyance of tax forfeiture property in Albertville. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Commissioner Burrell?
Aye.
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 Aye. Resolution passes 5-0. Second item, approve of 2019 tobacco license.
So board, just remember that new tobacco licenses come before you, renewals go in the consent agenda. So this is a new license for Mark Allen Campbell, doing business as Brothers Smoke and More in the city of Clearwater.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the 2019 tobacco license for Mark Allen Campbell in the city of Clearwater.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Hewsome, a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden for the tobacco license approval. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Tobacco license is approved. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the petition item that I put on there, Commissioner Deline, it's in Glencoe, so we'll get you the particulars for that meeting. So.
Okay, thanks.
Emergency Management Director, Seth Hansen.
Chair, board members, good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm asking you guys to pass a resolution of a declaration of emergency for Wright County just due to flooding. It's basically a preemptive measure in case we get some more rains and we have some more issues that happen in Delano, Rockford, or elsewhere, that we can be eligible for any funds if we get a state declaration or a presidential declaration.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Dahlheiden.
if we're approving this as of today,
Yep.
what about somebody that's had some flood issues that's not on a river, but has had some other unusual because of this weather?
As long as it's public infrastructure. We can't do anything for private residencies. That'll have to be handled through their insurance companies.
Okay.
But anything public, even if it was before today, we still have to declare an emergency. So anything that'll happen because of this event, whatever the state declares that time frame to be, but we still have to declare one. And us declaring it as well is the first step, and our cities that want to do it have to declare one themselves. So like Rockford's doing one tonight, and at Delano this week as well.
Okay. So we know we haven't had any issues up until now with some
Delano
flooding
did.
on infrastructure?
Not really on any infrastructure that's damaged. We have some roadways that have water on them, and so there's time, and then the highway department's been coding all that to the flooding, so it's being tracked properly.
Okay,
And
so
the
even
cities-
though we're staying today,
Yep, all the
already
previous
full
stuff
between
is
now and
separate.
it is, okay.
Yep, it'll all be covered. And then we'll do it through April 30th. Figured that was a good time frame. That'll give us a really good idea where we're at. Even if it goes longer than that, and of course, we can declare another one after that. But the forecast looks pretty favorable right now. Delano River's falling. It fell about 7 inches in the last couple days. Rockford's gone up a little bit, and of course, they're going to go up because they're downriver from Delano. Right now, things look good barring any rain, other ice jams or such.
Tomorrow, though, it's going to be a big melting day.
Tomorrow will be a big day. I would expect to see a little bit of a spike. So Delano installed their walls a little early because of the ice jam. Just to be precautious, because 20 foot is their mark, and they were at about 19.6, 19.8 when they installed it because they just didn't know what was going to happen. So it was preemptive, and it went up quick, and it's doing its job. And then the county had added some riprap along County Road 17 where we got some erosion problems right there, so that was timely as well. So.
How about damage within the right-of-way? Basically, people's driveways that ended up just because the water flooded out and they can't, now they can't pass their driveway to the road.
If it's part of our right-of-way, it would be public infrastructure at that point, because we have our utilities and stuff that run through there. So that portion of the property could be recovered. So to get to that threshold, though, we have to meet spending limits.
Okay.
And ours is, we're nowhere close at this point, but we could be at some point. We're between 255 and 275,000 is for our state declaration spending limits, and for federal, it's about double that, about 470 to 475.
Mr. Chair, I'll move forward the resolution declaring a state of emergency for Wright County due to flooding.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Dahlin on a declaration of a state of emergency for flooding. Any further discussion? Hearing none, resolution, Commissioner Dahlin?
Aye.
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 Aye. Resolution passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief Deputy Attorney Brian Asselson.
Morning. I didn't get up right away because I wasn't sure it was 9:20, but
Is it?
maybe
I should have looked at my clock. We're 19, we're a minute ahead. I guess you're going to have to sing for us, so.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, you may recall that back in 2001, I believe it was, the county formed a subordinate service district out by Lake Charlotte and Lake Martha for the purpose of basically a sewer system that hooks into the city of St. Michael. We have not had, I don't think for at least 5 years, a new sewer hookup out in that area. The way it has been handled in the past is that the people who were assessed a trunk charge to help pay for the main lines that get out to that area from the city were assessed $8,700 back in 2001 or 2002. What we've done is we've tried to increase that charge for inflation so that any new hookups share in the cost of the main lines. The last hookup, like I say, was 5 or 6 years ago, and in consultation with the city of St. Michael, we're recommending a trunk charge of $13,505.67. The lot that we're dealing with today was not assessed back in 2001 or 2002 because it contains a seasonal structure. I think it was on a holding tank. The owner at the time had no intentions of ever doing anything else with the lot. And there are some questions about whether or not it could be improved because of setbacks and bluff the shoreland regs. But the owners, the current owners, wanted to hook up to the sewer system for their, occasional use of the property, and they've already paid all of the fees to the city of St. Michael. There's a hookup charge. There's a couple of other smaller charges, and they've deposited this amount with the county. So we're requesting two actions. One is to set the hookup charge or the trunk charge for 2019, which would apply to any other new hookups that might happen between now and the end of the year. and then also to a separate action to approve the hookup. This parcel is on the east side of Lake Charlotte, and so it's in an area where there's plenty of capacity in the line, and this is just south of the city, or the line between the Rockford Township and the city of St. Michael on the east side of Charlotte.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Chief Deputy, so the first motion you want then is to set the charge at the $13,505.67?
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I will make that motion to set the trunk charge for the Charlotte Martha Subordinate Services District at $13,505.67 for the year 2019.
All right, got a motion
I'll
by,
second that.
a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Hewsome, for setting the rate for 2019. Any further discussion? Hearing,
Chair.
Commissioner Potty?
Mr. Chair. Brian, with this Martha Charlotte Subordinate Service District that the county entered into with St. Michael, we had it where it was going to be out of funds but still had money owed. Is this going to, this problem with this property coming in now, is this going to help delay that a little bit before we have that money crunch again?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Potter, it could help a little bit. I think we're still looking at a situation whereby 2020, I believe it is, next year, we may have a shortfall. So that's something, that's a good question, because we've talked about having a public informational meeting out among the residents. And in fact, I've worked with the Bob's office on putting together a mailing list for purposes of notifying people of a meeting. And there may be a supplemental assessment because anytime you have a subordinate service district, we can't use county levy dollars for that. It's supposed to be just the folks who live in that district that pay for those services.
Was there additional properties that were supposed to be pulled into this to help pay for this originally, or why such a shortage?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Delight, that's a good question too. The lines of the district were drawn, and there was a phase one where people were required to hook up. Most people, there were a few exceptions. And then there was a phase two, which was some of the development area where we thought there may be residential development. That really hasn't happened. Obviously in 2007 or whenever it was, 2008, the housing market kind of crashed a bit. And so we haven't had as many new hookups as we anticipated. The other factor that I think affected the viability of the fund for the district was that our investment rates, our interest earnings went down significantly. So, we had made projections about, how much money we have now and how much money we're going to have each year in the future, and that changed a bit.
And Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Brian, with this as when I first got on, and we had talked about this early on my tenure here, we knew that this date was coming up. I just want to refresh the board on, we're going to have that public meeting, get that this year to make sure when next year rolls around, we got this figured out, what's going to, because that is, the county entered into this agreement, and it is our monkey. We have to deal with it any way, shape. We have to deal with it. I do believe that because of the timing of that 2001 versus the recession when it hit, one property that did get sold, and they changed that road, the Division Street Road. I believe that that's going to start having houses within the next couple of years. We just might have to figure out how to bridge the 1 year to get here, because things take a little time to get going.
All right. Any other further discussion? We just need to get the vote here. So we have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion on it? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I'll make a motion to approve the sewer hookup for the PID 215-035-000-260.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheim and a second by Commissioner Potts for the approval of sewer hookup. Any other discussion?
I just, curiosity, but it was deemed unbuildable years ago, and now they can build, what?
No, it's still a cap.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Burrell, I think they still would have to deal with P&Z if they were looking at expanding the current footprint at all.
As long as
because of the
stays.
shoreland rules, yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Shoreland and Bluff. There's two issues on that lot.
All right. Any other further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Greg Picard, Veteran Services.
Morning.
Morning.
Okay, we have two things. I didn't check the order, so I don't know which one you have in front of you first. We'll go with the out-of-state travel.
Donation.
Donation.
Donation first? Okay. So we received donation from Zion Lutheran Church. They contacted us, and they had gotten some money from one of their members, a large donation. So they split it out. They wanted to split out to several organizations, ours being one of them, just to help for veterans. So it's obviously, we're a very veteran-friendly community, so they graciously thought of us to share the $1,000 with us, and we can use it how we need to. So we're just asking, and thanks to Brian for typing this up, I had forgot about the resolution. So ask him to approve the resolution to accept that $1,000 donations for our department.
I will make that motion, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Hewson, a second by Commissioner Dahlin for the acceptance of a donation of $1,000 by Zion Lutheran Church. Any further discussion? Hearing none, what's the resolution? I'm sorry, Commissioner Potter.
Aye.
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 All right, resolution passes. All right, next would be out-of-state travel.
Right, so if you recall back when I first started, part of our certification accreditation process is at some point within, I think it's 18 months, we have to attend the national certification training. So that's what this is. With Steve's schedule, his obviously day-to-day duties, but he also has reserve duty requirements because he's still Reserve Air Force. So I had to balance when the training was and try to fit it in. So they have a mobile training team down in Omaha for the same national. So we're going to send him down there to get the same training that we get at the full national convention of the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers. So it's a little bit cheaper because this year the national one is in Cleveland. So it's a lot closer, reduced travel costs. All the cost other than the salary is covered by that operational improvement grant from the state. So there's basically no impact financially to the county.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we authorize out-of-state travel for the Assistant Veteran Service Officer, the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers Training in Omaha, April 8th to the 12th of this year.
I'll second that, and that was my question. This was Cleveland, or, I mean...
This is going to Omaha.
Yep.
There's one coming up this summer in Cleveland that I will be going to.
Okay.
So, and that way we won't both be gone out of the office at the same time, so it even works out even better.
Good.
All right.
Mr. Chair. Hopefully the flooding will go down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that. So I asked him, how are you going to get there? Because you're not taking 29 South to get there. So, but yeah, he's aware.
All right, motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Hewson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Out-of-state travel is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
Mark Hansen, Economic Development Coordinator.
It's for you. Super for you. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Once again, Mark Hansen. And before I get started, I want to thank Chair Vetch and Commissioner Potter for being on our Joint Powers Board for Region 7W. And just to give you a little bit of history, just so you know, Region 7W is a designated federal economic development region, and that is Benton, Stern, Sherburne, and Wright counties. At this point in time, we've submitted our comprehensive economic development strategy plan that's been approved, and we have now went to the next level, is establishing our district as an economic development district. We've submitted that application, we received questions back, replied to those questions, more questions came in, asked for some mapping, sent those in, and now we're in a holding pattern as far as the approval for our economic development district. Once we receive that, our next plan is to look for planning grant funds and moving forward with our process as the next RDO in the state. So that is the update with our economic development district and our Region 7W status. Also, we are part of
the MADO, Minnesota Association of Development Organizations. Even though we have not established that district yet, we're still participating. Go to the meetings quarterly and just learn what's the rest of the state doing as far as economic development by way of the federal entity. As far as local activity, starting off with business recruitment. As the Economic Development Coordinator, I attend an entity called CVN, Community Venture Network. They give quarterly presentations for businesses and industry looking to relocate in greater Minnesota. So attend that and see if what might fit us. And if some project seems that it might fit this region, I'll bring it to the area economic development entity and say, by the way, I think this is a good opportunity, then we'd move forward on something like that. I've been attending these meetings, I think, for 20 years and had many recruitment opportunities. And actually, I've actually housed 2 of the opportunities in areas where I've worked. So the next piece is really where you have a lot of information in front of you, is working with childcare. And I'll get a little deeper, but essentially, upon my hire last June, I did some investigation finding that the central Minnesota area is got an extreme child care shortage. So I've done a lot of investigating, meeting with Wright County Community Action, the Child Care Association, First Children's Finance, just to really find out what is the current situation. So I've been doing a lot of investigating. Like I said, I'll talk a little bit more about that later. The next piece in Wright County, we've been working with Dwayne Northagen from the Wright County Partnership in his Workforce Pathways project. We're about 6 months in. It's really a planning process right now of how can we better assist our businesses in fulfilling their workforce needs. We don't have any big answers right yet, but we are investigating. We're working with the hospital, working with Excel, we're working with smaller businesses, we're working with the school district, Wright Tech, and just anybody that is willing to participate. How can we combat this workforce shortage? So really in the planning phase, Dwayne has received a $10,000 grant from the Initiative Foundation to pay for this planning. And of course, my participation in this is looking at it as a region, but really more concentrating on the child care issue, because that's the one area where I've really focused my attention. The rest of that is essentially just attending meetings, networking, being part of morning chamber meetings, being part of industrial development meetings, just really getting the understanding of what's going on in Wright County and its cities. So with that, I'm going to move into some more detail about the child care shortage, just so you can see where Wright County sits as far as the state and the region. I've handed out some new documents to you today just because of the fact that this is new information I've received. I thought, well, it'd be good for today's presentation. The one I want to cover, first of all, is the rural reality child care shortage. It's basically, you see the picture of Minnesota as its situation in child care. Our central Minnesota region, we are 49% short of need for child care facilities, at-home daycare centers, what have you. So there's definitely a need, but that's just a general statement. But you can look through the rest of the state. I mean, we got the best region is 22% short. The worst region is 55% short. So we're in the mix of the whole state has a definite shortage. So to move forward from that, I wanted to talk about a couple studies that have been done to get more specifics. To say we're 49% in the central Minnesota doesn't really tell us much. So I went to 2 resources that are essentially state authorities. First of all, I've given you a document today that has come out by way of University of Minnesota, ranking every county in our state as far as its child care situation. It uses 3 basic figures: quantity of child care, cost of child care, and the quality of care. Where does Wright County sit? In quantity of care, 74th out of 87. Cost of care, 79th out of 87 counties. And the quality of care, 73rd out of 87. And then the page 2, you'll see where does the overall rating. The overall rating is 79 out of 87 of the counties. And that's just indicative of where you see the central Minnesota sits as far as the great need. But it just shows you also where Wright County has some areas of improvement. And I'll be working on that further with your Department of Human Services, working with economic development, et cetera, et cetera. But right now, this is just an anecdote from University of Minnesota. The next document you have is, it states child care gap for Region 7W. This is a document that is a representation of a spreadsheet of the entire state that was established by First Children's Finance. And what this does, it depicts Region 7W as its gap in child care. And that number of child care slots gap is 7,657 slots showing as a gap. And then where does it show Wright County? That gap for Wright County shows a need for 3,088 slots, or 3,088 slots short, with two communities, Albertville and Monticello, showing the greatest need.
So that I understand this.
Yes.
What this is saying is that there's 3,088 kids, or kids that don't have a place in a daycare center, so that the parents can work or something? Is that what you're saying?
There's a variety of reasons, but I'll explain in more detail really what that means. What this is it's using demographic information. Here's the population of individuals that are working. Those population of individuals that are working that have children has a total number. They take that total number minus the total number of child care spots that are licensed full-time facilities. So it's a very specific statement. There's the gap is there's a 3,000 slot gap for licensed full-time facilities. So does that mean that some kids aren't being cared for mom or dad or sister or brother or a friend? No, it doesn't mean that. Could they be being cared for in a non-licensed facility? Absolutely, they could be. But this is just one representation of how much gap there is between licensed full-time and what the need is. So would this number ever be zero? Absolutely not. There's plenty of families that use other options than full-time child care. But what this does say is, though, if someone is looking, it's going to be hard to find a full-time licensed child care available. And we are finding, back to your point, that some families are deciding that since child care isn't available or child care isn't affordable, I am not going to enter the workforce because of that obstacle. So that is really where the economic development and workforce obstacle is if we're not getting people back in the workforce because child care is a barrier.
So my question is, so they're using the demographics of number of children, what's the age are they using it from birth?
6 and under.
6 and under, okay.
Yes.
So that number could be slightly skewed because they're basing it on license through DHS, correct?
That is 100% correct.
So, because you're basically, your school district before and after care and summer care are usually not licensed through DHS, they're licensed through the Department of Education, so that could actually skew that number.
It does.
Yep.
It absolutely does. And also those that are not full-time. So it does skew it. It just gives us a representation. The one important thing to notice is this is the same information for every city in the entire state. So it's an even weighting. It just gives us something to look at. And that's why I really also like the University of Minnesota study, because it does not use those stats. It uses a variety of parameters to make its decision on where it sits. But Chair Vetch, regardless of any of that, the antidote is we know by feeling there's a shortage. This just gives us a statistical representation of that shortage. Just something to work with. I don't take this as fact. It just gives me a barometer.
Sure. And it might not be quite as drastic as it may look right there on paper because of the metrics that are used. Yeah.
Exactly. So my statement I've made in the past, cut the number in half. It's still a number that's quite large. So, any more questions on that document?
Nope.
I had a question, just like the cost of childcare, where we rank very high in the cost. It's apparently there's not enough, and then it's also higher cost than most. I mean, how does it compare like to a metro? Is it because we're close to the metro area? Is that it?
The metro area does skew the cost. Yes, absolutely.
But I just look at that. I mean, the 175 per week. That's a Wright County average. Is that it?
Yes.
I mean, that it does. It almost gets cost prohibitive to parents at some point. I mean, you take 2 kids, times that by a year, and you're over $18,000 just in childcare. And yeah, and then if you had 3 kids, oh my gosh.
I know of someone in the metro area, actually Minneapolis, they're looking at that, and it was like $2,800 per month for 2 kids. That's, I mean, how can you afford to work? So that's crazy.
Mr. Chair, in response to that, just so you do, that number is an average, and I've done some local phone calls just to see what the actual cost is. And for a new infant into a Monticello care is $250 a week.
Yeah.
And that just to give you an exact number of a community center and what they charged it.
And I guess I'm thinking this through. I mean, it's one thing for a married couple, you know, to be able to afford that, but a single parent with a couple of kids, I mean, you have to have a darn good paying job. And I know we do provide, there is assistance available for somebody that's
Correct.
that's not a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, but still, it's yeah, maybe instead they should start their own daycare center. Okay.
Good point, good point.
All right.
Any other questions on either of those two documents? Nope. And the last one I wanted to give you just as a graphic representation of your communities and where they sit. And the one point you can see is starting with St. Michael all the way to Albertville, all the cities within the county that have been studied on the final page of your packet I handed are in the negative. Just to give you that, just as a visual and show you where your individual cities rank.
Gee, I don't understand this one, the difference between St. Michael and Albertville. Because, I mean, they're almost, they're right next to each other. They share the same school district, and there's a lot of the kids that go to the program at the school.
Latchkey, yeah.
So that's why I don't understand why maybe it's because in the city of Albertville, there really isn't any formal big daycare centers, where in St. Michael, there's a number of them.
It used to be, it changed the last couple of years. There was a daycare center where the Coburn's Liquor is now. That closed down and St. Michael opened a second one. So that's where that number, that's where that bounce came from. It just went the other way.
As long as I got you, we were trying to clear up here, because when we set our appointments for the 7W SEDS group, we appointed our Commissioner Potter and Dwayne Northig into it. I know that my name's coming in there. I would attend them, but we didn't want to end up having more people and basically create rub between the other entities.
Yes,
because
sir.
we'd have. So we were trying to determine, is it Dwayne is representing us, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
That's correct.
because I wanted to make sure, otherwise, because I would attend them, but I assumed that Dwayne was attending them on as well as Commissioner Potter. So.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
That is correct.
Okay. No.
And keep in mind, Mr. Chair, that Sherburne County has 2 commissioners sitting on there, so the more the merrier. It's not going to hurt for more people to listen to it. And Mark, could you remind the board why, you know, because we are part of the 7W, the SEDS way back when, and then it kind of went off the wayside. Now we're back, and what's the value, what's the advantage, and why are we doing this?
Thank you for the question. The value is that this is a federal economic development entity, and this opens the doors for us to receive economic development funds and grants from the federal government. Without the SEDS document, this region cannot even apply for grants from the federal government. So now that we've had the SEDS approved, we're able to apply within 7W. And we actually have applied in another county, in Stearns County, and we actually were approved and funded. So that is a great example of where we can use that opportunity. Once we become a district, our entity, our economic development can actually apply on our own behalf. At this point, we cannot, because we're not actually that designation, but all of our other economic development entities throughout the region can.
Do you have any sponsored projects at this point that you're interested in, or projects that you guys intend to sponsor as a group in the long term? I mean, I know you're probably looking at this childcare as a potential candidate. It's just trying to figure out how you can use the SEDS process and the federal funds to aid it.
Correct, and it really comes down to how I see the future of this workforce pathways for Wright County. When we get the planning done and what the request for what are we going to do, that might definitely fit into the federal economic development realm. You know, are we looking at some expansion and training or anything to do with workforce? That's really where that comes in. They really want to assist with those opportunities, but right now we're still in the investigation stage. So, Chair Batch, I really see that for Wright County fits really well, future tense. I will say that child care really hasn't percolated up in the realms of economic development for the federal level to be seen as an entity to fund, but I think it may in the future, so.
Just finding the right avenue to be able to accept those funds to aid that area. That's where the complication comes.
Right, exactly. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you for the time, appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I guess I could have said this a minute earlier, but I was actually going to share this as part of our updates, but this was from the Initiative Foundation, and they mentioned, or actually had a nice article about the Wright Technical Center, and Dwayne Northagen had accepted a $10,000 grant from the Initiative Foundation to help with Wright Technical. And if you guys haven't ever toured out there, I mean, it's really a great place, and it's not only for just high school kids, but they're also opening up programs for adults. But they've got 8,300 square feet. They've got labs. They've got automotive. They've got 12 programs, including the healthcare, automotive technology, law enforcement, and, well, much more, cosmetology, so, you can go get your hair done and all kinds of things there. But they have 8 member school districts, and this last summer they invested $400,000 to add plasma welders to their welding program. So, I mean, they're really doing a lot, and it's just like this hidden gem right here. But not only classes for students during the day, but can bring in adults on weekends and evenings too. So anyway, it was a real nice article. If anyone gets a chance to read the IQ magazine for spring. So. But thank you for the work that you're doing, Tricia. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Mattice.
It's supposed to be Dr. Mattice.
Oh, it's Dr. Mattice, that's right.
He's the doctor of trees.
That's what I hear.
Doctor what?
Trees.
Diagnosing trees. Greek.
Good morning.
Oh, you speak Greek?
Mr. Chair, members of the board. Couple items for you this morning. First one is to authorize me to sign a contract with HKGI for the creation of the master plan for the Great River Regional Trail. I think a few weeks ago I brought to you the memorandum of understanding between Wright County, City of Clearwater, Monticello, and Otsego on the cost share, the planning process. We had a review committee which consisted of myself, the Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Otsego, City Administrator from Monticello and Clearwater, reviewed the 4 proposals and have selected HKGI with their experience in Greater Minnesota regional trail planning. They'll do a great job for us as we move through the process this spring and summer and into fall. So the contract's there for your consideration. And signature line, it's under 100, but I still felt to bring it to you. All these rules of purchasing, but since you've been involved since the beginning on this, it's a good deal. It's well within our budget. We also received a $7,500 grant from the statewide health improvement program that will be going towards this project, so helps reduce our costs between all the entities. We'll prorate that.
I'll make a motion to approve the signature on contract with HGKI for the creation of a master plan for the Great River Regional Trail.
I'll second it.
I got a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden, a second by Commissioner Burrell on the HGKI creation of a regional master plan. Any further discussion?
I was just going to inquire of Commissioner Dahlheiden if he was okay with this, but if he's making the motion, apparently he's okay, so good enough.
Any further discussion?
Just what I like about these sort of things is that these are partnerships with the communities. So it's not Wright County doing something, it's the communities in conjunction with Wright County. So it's a good partnership to work with all the cities along the Mississippi River.
Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes.
Thank you. Next item is we had a park commission meeting March 11th. Sometimes there's not a lot of action, just kind of guidance. for the department, but when there's action items for your consideration, like to do that. So we don't see them every time we have a meeting, but we've been doing a lot of planning on emerald ash borer since it was identified at the Clearwater Travel Plaza. We developed an app with the help of the GIS guys in the surveyor department called Survey 123, where we went out and surveyed all our ash trees throughout the winter. We get an impact of how that could affect our budget over time. Got some directive from the Park Commission and developed the emerald ash borer management plan for parklands within Wright County, for the county operated and maintained parklands in Wright County. That management plan, I think, was attached to your agenda. So basically talks about what we're going to do to survey the trees, how we're going to monitor the trees, how we're going to go about once identified removal, replacement, and how we're going to kind of get ahead of it before too long. Granted, we're not surveying all our ash trees, because if we go out in some of our wooded acres, more natural areas, we're just not going to deal with that. This is more so for our maintained areas where we could end up with hazard trees and issues like that, losing a lot of shade trees. We have 297 ash trees in the maintained areas, so we talked about how we want to go ahead and start reestablishing them. If you look out east of Michigan and stuff like that, it's better to be try to be a little bit in front of the game, getting those replaced before they have nothing at Collins Park or something like that. So try to limit the budget impacts. I forgot the plan exactly, but we're looking at possibly doing a replacement of 20 trees a year. Right now we do probably 10 shade tree replacements a year, so it's up in our budget a little bit, but there are areas that will be like, maybe we don't need to start so significantly right away. There might be some areas where we say we don't need to replace that ash tree because we have enough maples or oaks or different species around that's going to grow and take care of the shade need for that use area. So with that, you got 297. If you replace them all, you're looking at 13-year replacement. Yeah. So by then we'll be seeing the effects of that ash borer in Wright County pretty strong.
I'll make a motion to approve the adoption of the Emerald Ash Borer Management Plan for parkland maintained and operated by Wright County.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheim.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The Emerald Ash Borer Management Plan is approved.
And the second one that came out of the Park Commission was modifying our alcohol consumption policy within the Wright County Parks Ordinance. Bringing the concept to you today as we work with the Attorney's Office, Greg Kreiser, the ordinance czar of the county. We would work through that, and then we'd be bringing this back to the Park Commission in May, the ordinance for their review. Well, basically what we're looking at doing is allowing malt beverages, wine, and cider. Tell me if I'm speaking wrong. There's actual statutory definitions of these beverages, I guess. Did not know that. Within the reservable facilities of our parks, like our campsites proper, picnic shelters, the chalet at Bertram, not around playgrounds, not at swimming beaches. So it has to be a group that reserves a facility would have the option to bring alcoholic beverages in.
And Mr. Chair, Mark, so if I was up at Collinwood and sitting around the fire with my wife and having a burger off the grill, can I have a beer then?
Legally have a beer if we change this ordinance.
We could.
Right now you can't.
Right now legally you cannot.
Okay.
I like how you use the reserve.
I support this change.
Right now we say turn your head to the sheriffs and stuff, just kind of turn your head on that.
I think using the reserved sites as the way to manage it is a good piece to it. I think it stops that ability of just having people randomly walking in for the day and throwing a party in the park, but also allows the people that are camping and stuff to do what they would normally do.
And then could we expand this so if the state does legalize recreational marijuana?
I knew that was.
Well, if the state does legalize recreational marijuana, I think we have a new a new function for the Fairhaven Mill at the Row site. Revenue generator. It'd be an enterprise fund. Bob likes that.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Burrell needs to annex Collingwood Park into Hennepin County, then Mr. Freeman won't prosecute it.
Yeah. You know, one of the other things that the Parks Commission looked at is that just for the wine and the beer, cider, no strong alcohol.
But, you know, I think, see how this goes, because, you know, somebody else, I mean, like I said, I don't drink the strong drinks, but I would enjoy having a beer, but somebody else might want to have a you know, whatever. Maybe we just see where this goes, and because if it's a problem, then we have to bring it back, but if it's not, maybe we could look at, you know.
Yeah,
The other item
Oh.
the Park Commission is considering, Commissioner Burrell, is that we do have the athletic fields from the city of Monticello and Bertram Park, and obviously that's not in the city
Yeah.
limits, so our ordinance is enforced there. So what this language would do is if there's an adult softball tournament, they could have beer at that. But if there is a youth tournament, there would be no beer. And because they reserve out the fields, it's a reservable event when they have those tournaments, so.
I think you're on the right track. I support it, so.
Mr. Chair, Mark, like in the case of a wedding reception,
Yeah.
would that be expanded a bit? So if they had a bartender there that was making, you know, they wanted to have mixed drinks or whatever, that they could do that? Or you just want to just not get into that at all? I don't know, Greg?
Well, Mark,
Greg's got some.
correctly now, we honor in Wright County, I believe if you have a state permit, liquor permit, we honor those in Wright County if they went into our park system with a state licensed, with a state license to, no, we don't?
We don't.
I don't know what the policy is, so we don't.
Would they?
Here's the buzzkill.
Mr.
Chair,
They don't.
We don't allow any alcohol currently.
Oh, currently,
So we should be, that'd be a discussion they should have.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hewsome, we can draft the ordinance however you want, but the more exceptions you put in it just makes the ordinance longer. It's up to you what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean,
Draft it.
I would think just for, you know, a specific thing like that, when they're having, or I don't know, if there's other events in the, I'm thinking the chalet itself, so I'm not going out into all the parks and that kind of thing, but it just seems like if you're having a wedding reception or perhaps another adult gathering, not to make it more complicated, but, you know, not everybody likes beer or wine, but they might want to have a gin and tonic or something, so.
Commissioner Burrell?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. But I guess what I would like is, they do have, you know, a state liquor catering license, and that's what we do at the fairgrounds. If somebody wanted to have an event out there, the fair board requires that they have a liquor catering license, and I don't think that would add a whole lot of complexity to it, and so that way, if there was a wedding or whatever, it's supervised by somebody that has a state license.
And they have dram shop insurance then,
And then they'd have their dram insurance and the whole works, so I don't think it would be a lot to add.
If you want us to do it, we can add it.
I would support
I
it.
think that would give the people that or larger events that want to have
Right.
have hard liquor, then they can do that, but they're gonna have to have a state permitted.
Don't worry about that next year.
And what's that, Mike?
Or with Mark with the Park Commission, because I'm sure that they talked this one out pretty well.
Yeah, well, it's.
Did you?
Yeah, we had a lot of discussions. I know the word Jägermeister came up about making sure that never got
Well,
allowed in any of the parks.
good point,
Past
good point.
experience.
Guys in the Navy never drank Jägermeister.
No, it was intravenously fed to them.
Just the Air Force.
Pre-flight routine.
Free flight.
I would like to see it, though, where if you use the liquor catering license people, that would be acceptable. And Mark can bring it back to the park board if they had some strong objection. But you know what? The county board makes the final decision. Am I not right on this? I mean, we had some things on the planning and zoning board, I know, where the planning and zoning board could not kind of get it together, and the county board did on an instance, so.
Commissioner Dolan, was that brought up at all?
It was, but I think what it was kind of baby steps. I mean, currently, we're not allowing anything.
Right.
So we thought a step and see how it goes, and, you know, because we are gonna have some better enforcement out in the parks. But I think it was more talking about baby steps and working our way possibly into that respect.
If that's something the board would like to see, we can put it in the draft to bring back to the Park Commission in May and
Yeah.
and
I think that'd be
see
good to get their feedback.
temperature on this
I would do
date
that.
thing.
Mr. Chair?
Oh, good.
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to agree with Commissioner Glyden on this because you're going from no alcohol to something, and the baby step is probably the correct way to go to see if there's any issues. If you get through a year and you don't have issues, then you come back. But if you throw it all full Monty out there right now and you start having issues pretty soon, everything's gone again. Because it wasn't zero alcohol, now it's going to have some. I mean, the amount of times that you're going to have somebody that's going to want strong liquor is going to be limited anyway.
I think the majority of our requests have always been for beer and wine. I don't think I've ever heard anybody request hard liquor in any of their.
But Mr. Chair, with Commissioner Potter's thinking that way, he'll never be invited to another party at Wake.
One thing go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, why not just include it in the draft ordinance to begin with? Because it's, like you said, it's not probably going to happen all that often. But if someone is going to have a wedding reception there and they said, you know, can we get, you know,
With a licensed caterer. Yeah.
Well,
Mr. Chair.
the one thing I will say is more stringent. I mean, right now, doing bring your own beer and wine is free for all. Really, it's more stringent if you're actually allowing people to have a permitted one. I would rather see people use a permitted one versus the bring your own, but I'll support the bring your own as well, because I think that's even, it's way more
economical.
It's way more economical. It's more freedom to the users. But I mean, I think if you're going to offer them the part where they can have hard liquor and use a permitted one, I think that's, I mean, it's safer for the county parks at that point, because they're going to have beer, wine, and liquor, but it's going to be done through a permitted vendor, so that somebody's insured, somebody who's licensed, where they can just bring beer and wine and just, it's free for all.
Could we just draft it up as an option, and then we can maybe we'll hear a little bit more feedback.
I do not believe that our Park Commission talked about the state licensed vendor. We were more concerned about the guy at the campground that has the bar sitting on the picnic table.
Oh, yeah.
With the
No, you don't want to get into
bottles
that.
and vodka bottles, and you have a big bar sitting there, where this does provide a little enforcement of that type of activity.
I agree. You don't want to put guys sitting bars up all over.
Yeah.
That's,
And there is consequences if they violate, so.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the concept to modify the alcohol consumption policy within the Wright County Parks ordinance.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden, a second by Commissioner Burrow.
Charlie really jumped on that one, didn't he?
Nope. Any other further comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you. We'll bring you back the final ordinance after the May Park Commission meeting.
Okay, thank you.
It is 10:04, and Mr. Virgil Hawkins is up with a number of items. I think he saved them up for like a lifetime here.
It's that time of year, though, Mr. Chair.
Morning,
lots of
Chairman
reading.
Bench, Board of Commissioners. Today I have 7 items for your consideration, which I think is the most I've ever brought in
Yeah, I
one
think so.
The first item is to approve agency agreement between Wright County and MnDOT that allows for a federal fund exchange between us and Stearns County. Stearns County has already approved in a similar agreement, and it's just for efficiency of cutting down the number of federal projects. We're going to get about $846,000 of their federal money, and we're going to give them an equal amount of our state aid dollars. And it eliminates a federal project for the state, which is less paperwork and less hoops to jump through. So there's a resolution also.
Mr. Chair, I'll move for that agreement, whatever.
Resolution, I will second that.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Hewson for the agency agreement. It's a resolution. Any other further discussion? Hearing none. Commissioner Hewson?
Aye.
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 One down, 6 to go.
Yeah, the next one is the award of plant mix bituminous seasonal bids, and actually, this one is, we accept all the bids. We have received bids from Oman Brothers, Hard Drives in mid-Minnesota, and these where our maintenance staff picks up the mix, their plants, and depending where we're working in the county, we'll use probably all of them throughout the
Okay.
year.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering why, yeah, it was all, that makes sense.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to award the plant mix bituminous seasonal bids to include all those that participated.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Potter,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Dahleden. Any other further discussion on the awarding of plant mix?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Virgil, for a couple of years, we saw the engineer's estimate and the bids on the downside. Now we're starting to see it slide up a little
Went
bit.
up again.
Prices are up a little bit this year.
It ebbs and flows all the time, so it's just a matter of, not a lot of people remember when it was under the engineer's best, but it was just a couple of years ago, not that far. But now, with oil price and everything else, it's up, but that's, to me, it's not that much above, but it's a manageable number.
I find it interesting that there's such a big difference between the different hot mix companies.
Oh, yeah.
You know, one's over estimate of 5.6, or the other one's over almost by 12%. So I just find that interesting on how much of a difference there is.
And a lot of the variables is trucking too, and if they have to truck materials to their pit, how far they have to truck and fuel. There's a lot that goes into
I
it.
thought this was stuff we picked up at their plant, though.
It is, but they have to truck.
Oh, their
aggregates
costs to
plant,
bring it
their
down.
costs, so-
Okay. So now and Mr. Chair, Virgil, do we let our staff know that, I mean, if it's a mile further and you know, whatever, if you're between one, go, which one is
Oh, yeah.
less expensive?
Yeah, we
So,
plan
okay.
that out ahead of time.
Okay, because, yeah, if you're with, you know, if it's a mile or two difference and you know, go to hard drives versus mid-Minnesota, whatever.
We might end up going with a higher price mix on one because we're half a mile away.
Yeah.
Versus trucking it 40 miles across county or something.
Got it.
And that was, Mr. Chair, before we got on the board, the four of us, they did have a part where they were buying gravel from Annandale because it was cheaper than to truck it from over in Buffalo here. And I know a couple commissioners were questioning that, but why would we buy it when we have it here? The cost of trucking eats all that up, and to have it close to the job is paramount, and that's where it's nice to have this, because Ullman's way on the east side of the county, these other ones are on the west, and to me, it's a good way to doing it, just to accept them all, because whichever is closer, we're saving the taxpayers money.
Correct.
All right, any other further discussions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Okay, thank
Plant
you.
mix is approved.
The third item is to award the seal coat contract to Pearson Brothers of Hanover. They were the low bid in the amount of $610,306.12. And on the project this year, we included some work. Franklin Township roadways, they requested, they had some they wanted to do, so we included their work, and they've approved awarding it for their budget.
Thank you for that.
So it's best to do it that way to get the best pricing.
Yeah,
If they're in that area, it just
Yep.
makes a lot more sense.
made sense.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to award the seal coat contract number 1902 to Pearson Brothers.
I'll second that.
There we have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Burrell for the seal coating contract. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to commend Pearson Brothers because they did a project down by Waverly a couple years back, and the way they directed traffic and stuff, oh my gosh, they're just perfect. I mean, they're just, I don't know, a lot of people get mad a lot of times the way the projects run and, you know, backing traffic up. They just seem to have a way of making things work, and so.
They are top-notch with their traffic control, Pearson
Yeah.
Brothers.
So, that's all I have.
All right. Any other further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Seal coating contract is approved.
Thank you. The fourth item is award pavement preservation project, contract 1901 to Knife River Corporation, in the amount of $5,627,618.69.
Mr. Chair, I will make that motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hewson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Potter. for the awarding pavement preservation project. Any other further discussion?
Yes, Mr.
Just
Chair.
that it's,
Commissioner Burrell, or Potter?
oh, go
Sorry.
ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. This one was really close to engineer's estimate. This was a pleasant surprise, because I was expecting 11% over or something like that, just based on everything. But the spread here, for one, Knife River really wants this job bad. That's what I'm seeing from these bids, which is good for us. We get more bang for our buck. And it just, I'm happy with where they came in at.
That was my comment too.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pavement preservation.
I do have one quick question. I see 39 is on here. Are we going to do 39 and 38 on the same year?
39. It's,
I saw 39, 2019 overlay is the very first one.
The very first one?
Contract number 1901.
yeah, it's the segment of 39 between State Highway 24 and Highway 8.
Oh, okay, I was thinking
One way up.
on
You're
Otsego.
thinking about the Otsego one. That's
Yeah.
the HSIP one. That's a different deal.
Yeah, okay.
We will be opening bids later in the year on that project. We don't have those back and open for.
Yeah, but that wasn't planning on, that won't be done this year, though.
Part of it will.
Oh, will be?
A small part of it will.
The east of 19 will be done this year, and west of 19 to Monticello will be in 2020.
I'm just concerned about 38 and 19 both being down.
39 will be open to traffic when they do the work.
Oh, that will be? Okay. But still, it's gonna have a lot more traffic on it with 38 being down, is my concern.
Well, is on 38, we got the roundabout built last year, so the detour is much smaller now, because that's open. It can go up to OD and up to 39. So it's a shorter detour, so it shouldn't have as big of impact.
Yeah, and that was nice about getting that roundabout done last year, because it spared us a little bit of grief
Yeah.
this year with people.
We've had a lot going on in this area of the county, and so we intentionally wanted to get that done last year for traffic.
Yeah, and I suppose they'll be starting to work on 38 here in July when all the snow is melting, the frost out of the ground.
They actually want to start in April, and they can, if, like you said, as long as there's no more snow.
Award the pavement marking contract 1908. That would be with the AAA striping services.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden.
I'll second it. Those were close.
Second by Commissioner Burrell for the approval of the contract for striping 1908 for AAA striping of St. Michael. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Contract 1908 is approved.
Thank you.
Approve resolution of final acceptance of contract number 1703.
This was project in 2017 with State Park Road account, Briarwood Avenue, and also a pavement preservation project on County Road 131. Final payment amount to Knife River, $26,383.37.
I'll make a motion to approve final payment to Knife River.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden, a second by Commissioner Potter. Any other discussion on this resolution? Hearing none. Commissioner Dahlheiden?
Aye.
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 Aye. Resolution passes. The last item here, we have the approval of the 2019 maintenance agreement for the cities of Delano, Elk River, Howard Lake, Maple Lake, Montrose, Monticello, and Waverly. Any discussion
Chair,
here?
I will make a motion to approve the maintenance agreements from those cities.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hewsome, a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden. Any other discussion on these agreements?
I'm just glad that the Highway Department works with the different communities where it makes sense.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Maintenance agreements are approved.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I do have one question of Mr. Hawkins, since he's up here. Last week before, the bid was open for Highway 94, design build by two companies or something?
Last Wednesday it was open.
Last Wednesday? Have you heard anything?
71 million. was the low bid. Mead and Hunt PCI was the low bid, and which was about 10% over their estimate.
And how are their plans on doing it? Has that all been released yet?
Yet to be determined. We haven't heard yet on that.
Okay.
And our share for that project was estimated at 1.3 million. That might end up being a little more because the bids were a little higher. But we'll find that out. As soon as I find that out from Claudia, I'll let the commissioners know.
So it was over budget. Are they still planning on doing it, or are they trying to reduce?
As far as I know, they're planning to do it. Yeah. What I've heard is they'll find the money to do it.
They'll tap Mr. Potter from his property,
take
more of his property.
We'll skim 10% off his car washing business and pay that out. Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And Virgil, with these projects, when you do design builds, you kind of, it's a cat in a sack. You really don't know where they're at. I know all the bids seem to escalate this year, more so. Instead of being under engineer's estimate, they seem to be just a tad over. Labor, materials, everything else being what it is going on. And I'm fully confident MnDOT is going forward with this project. They have too much invested to turn back now. And if they were to turn back now, the outcry would be more than they want to even try to handle. We're still working on the next phase that the Albertville to Monticello, but that's going to take a while. And the governor's budget has only $25 million in the quarters of commerce money, which isn't a lot. So we'll have to see where it's at, because I know MnDOT between this project and the one between Monticello and Clearwater has pretty much bled the bank dry on getting these projects done. So it's good for Wright County. It's tough unless they get some more funding in there for going forward on big projects.
Yeah, within, 10% within an amount that typically doesn't cause a problem with moving forward with a project. I haven't heard at all that they're not going to move forward with it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that a Wright County business got part of the contract. Because you said it was Mead, Hunt, and PCI.
Correct.
The two of them together.
Yep.
So PCI.
HC, does that stand for Hassan Contracting?
Mead and Hunt, or?
What?
Mead and Hunt is the engineering group, I think, with PCI.
Well, because HC is also Hassan Contracting, which is owned by McCrossin.
Okay.
So
I'm not sure.
McCrossin bought PCI, so you're kind of, okay, was it this one or is that one?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Who were the two bids? Do you know?
I'm not sure the other group. I think McCrossin. I'm not sure who was with them. I hadn't heard much about them during the process.
McCrossin competing with McCrossin PCI?
No, he's like somebody else, but.
All right. Any other discussions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Virgil.
All right, now we are up to authorize negotiations with Oracle for ERP.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to put this on the agenda just as kind of a touch point with the board to make sure we're still okay to proceed forward with negotiating. As I believe you were informed via the technology minutes last week, our group has recommended Oracle, specifically their Fusion Government Cloud solution, to be our preferred vendor. We'd like to continue forward in the interactive process of negotiating with them to get a final price. Basically, we've selected the car. It's just what package of features that we would want. So we'd like to get this step done and then come back to the board, the committee of the whole, for the final acceptance, if that's okay.
Administrator Kelly, I'm guessing somewhere once you guys get it negotiated out, like you said, you're going to have a committee of the whole that'll kind of walk us through the scope of what you're including in this and all the cost factors and then kind of timeline as well.
Correct,
okay.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to authorize negotiation with Oracle for the ERP project. We need to move forward with it.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Delotte and a second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. ERP negotiations move forward. Next item is to schedule a capital improvement public hearing.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I can speak to that. As we have been talking about the two projects, the FBI Training Center as well as a government center, one of the first steps that we would have to do in moving forward is to schedule a capital improvement public hearing. This would need to be done regardless of the timeline. I just thought it'd be good to do both of them at one item.
with these projects. So I'd proposed the 16th board meeting. I realize that is Boy-Girl Day, but I think if we did it 9:30, we'd still be okay. So.
So do I have a motion? So moved. A motion by Commissioner Potter?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any further discussion?
Is that just going to be during our regular board meeting or following the board meeting?
That would be during the board meeting.
During the meeting.
9:30.
Okay.
All right.
Is this just strictly for the FBI building, or is this for the combination of both this and the potential government center?
We had planned it to include both projects in one CIP plan. The board from there could decide to do them on separate timelines. However, I thought it'd be easier to do it as one hearing rather than two separate, so.
Any other further discussion? Here. Oh.
No, I mean, you think you'll be okay? I mean, because I don't know how many people would be attending this, but the boy-girl kind of fills up the seats a little bit.
True. Typically, we've had in the past that be primarily the first 20 minutes of the meeting. We could move this back later if you felt that would be more appropriate. It's hard to say. Typically, we've used 9:30, not knowing what the agenda items are going to be coming in.
You know what?
We try and avoid it.
I'm just wondering if we didn't move it back till 10 o'clock, if it wouldn't be better.
That's fine. I can go with 10 o'clock.
Okay, I'll amend my
do
motion
that.
to make it 10 o'clock.
Okay.
I will second that.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second to set the public hearing on April 16th at 10 a.m. Any other discussions? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Public hearing date is set. Now, advisory committee updates. Who wants to go first?
I say we had 911 and owners committee, but we'll have minutes coming out, so I'll just hold off on that. I didn't have anything other than that.
We had the Mayor's Association meeting last Wednesday, and that was good dinner in Annandale. And Commissioner Vetch, Chairman Vetch, did the presentation. They were interested in the future of the government center presentation that he's done for, well, he did at the public meeting we had and also at cities, and so that was well received and
I added
good
the
comments.
Yeah, and I added the slides that we just got from BKV on the potential usage of this site, so that sort of posed some good conversation. People were excited to see what the potential usage could be for this area. So.
And the city of Buffalo was real happy to get that information that you provided.
Yep.
Yep. And I also, Chairman Vetch and Commissioner Potter and I were down at the state capitol and met with the commissioner of the DNR, the new commissioner, Sarah Strawman, and a couple of her folks. We also had Lake Association people. Senator Anderson was able to set up that meeting for us, and Luke from Soil and Water. So we chatted for close to an hour. So we still have some, this is about the regional inspection program. They have a punch list still for us to complete, and but it was just good to sit down and meet with her and see what transpires from there. I also had a Safe Harbor Task Force, and we're getting different protocols for the different agencies working with kids, basically, who've been trafficked, and a lot of good discussions at that meeting. So, and that's about it.
Last week on Thursday, with as well as with the DNR commissioner meeting, but also had Trailblazer. Trailblazer, once again, ridership is still month after month and continuing to grow. We had a unexpected cash infusion of $565,000 from MnDOT that we are having some discussions and allocation it into our budget and where the money will get allocated to. It's a one-time funding. The different the talk is about how we're going to allocate it between reserves and capital, and some capital purchases. Just kind of doing a blend because we want to make sure that we're offsetting ourselves or having some cushion down the road as well. Then there's also the discussion about the staffing levels where we're at, and basically discussions of maybe changing some of staffing pieces and maybe taking one level and making it into 2 positions versus 1. So a lot of org chart discussions, and then with those funds as well. So more to be had on that one. Was kind of held over to the next meeting so we could get some more information on how we're going to allocate the funds. Those funds were basically, MnDOT did tell us though that we can shrink our local share down by 10%. So we were going from an 85% to 85% MnDOT to 95% MnDOT. So our line item on our current budget will be dramatically less, so from our local share standpoint.
Think we'll ever get back the money we spent on the buses?
The money we spent on the bus.
700,000.
No, that was operating cash. That's in there.
So we'll never see that.
If you would if we leave Trailblazer, you'd get that money back. But the other
motion to want my money back.
It's still there. It ain't going nowhere. So someday, if you. All right. Other than that, that's all I have. So.
Is there still discussions about going into Hennepin County?
It's basically at this point we're not pushing it from our standpoint. We are going into Rogers. We have MnDOT approval to take Wright County people to Rogers. We don't have any interest at this point to move Rogers peoples, Roger Hennepin County individuals. We're not allowed to, and we're not even in the position to take on that services really at this time.
How many people are we taking into Rogers?
Right now, I believe it was 20 people into there. So it's basically it's a bookend service in the morning and in at the end of the day for work.
And those are numerous different people. Is it all from one company from here, Functional Industries?
Most of them are functional, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice that they have these businesses that really encourage the people that would use the Functional Industries.
No, I do want to say though that I did get an email back a while from FedEx and how they were very excited to have these opportunities to get some of these workers as well as Functional Industries as being able to, there's so many more work opportunities for the people at Functional Industries in Rogers, and it's kind of a partnership that businesses in Rogers really want to be able to utilize this workforce. So it's a really nice partnership.
Well, I'm just hoping that in conjunction with that if there's other people in this area that need a ride at the Rogers, that it can be worked out so that instead of, because that's one of the biggest complaints I keep hearing is that rides aren't available.
Mm-hmm. And that's where and if people let myself know, because we did the survey, but it's hard to do a survey that could get the details enough that help us create the rides where people want them and when they want them and where they want to go. We're still trying to get that information so we can kind of get the buses in the right areas at the right time.
Because I find it interesting. We get a brand new bus and it's just it's used first thing in the morning and in the afternoon, and then it kind of sits the rest of the day.
I mean, it sits, but it doesn't sit. It's just that the ridership per hour is dramatically lower after 10 a.m. Maybe between 10 and 2:30, 3 o'clock, the ridership is low because that's just nature of transit.
My turn?
Yeah.
Last week was kind of a slow week. I wasn't able to make it down to the Capitol. I mean, other things going on with business, but I was on the radio last week on Wednesday, and I blamed everything that I could on Commissioner Potter. Seemed to go over well.
Good plan.
I thought
Oh,
so.
heck yeah.
I thought so. Other than that, I just discussed about what the current things that are going on with the county, the ERP, and the different buildings.
I got
flooding
Part of
concerns.
it is the FBI, you're talking about the FBI tactical.
Yep, yeah, so just kind of currently what's going on, so. But
Was it scripted or are you doing in cold?
I never scripted.
On the fly. No teleprompter for Mark.
I speak from the heart.
Oh, okay. You should use that as a campaign slogan next time.
There'll be no next time.
Okay, you don't know?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, last week, besides being at the meeting with the DNR, which was good, it's good to see have faces with names and everything else. And Sarah being new brings a different perspective. That Bob's been there for a while, and Heidi Wolf's been out here a couple times. You know, so it's good to have them hear not only from us but different people within our county here how we do the work. I did reiterate that most pilot programs need 3 years to get anywhere. The first year you're stumbling out of the gate. The second year you make the corrections. By the third year you're probably going to have good data. So that's the idea behind it. So that was good. And I know that we have Senator Ingebrigtsen, who's the chair of the Natural Resource and Finance Committee there. He's I talked to him just prior to us going to the meeting, and Commissioner Houston had a little word from him. He supports this. And he supports this because he lives on a lake where I got the resort, and so he understands this. And he's hearing it from other counties because they gave us that, oh, no other county wants to be this. That's bunk, because other counties have said, hey, what are you doing? How is this working? We want to get the data from this. Because the lakes are a resource, you know, the land of 10,000 lakes. We don't want the land of 10,000 starry stonewort lakes. So hopefully the message gets across good for us. The other item was last week is in Rockford for the Safe Schools meeting, and they have the same problem that every other school's got, is the vaping. Because of the THC in there, and they had, last month they had 3 kids that kind of went to blank stare and had to get ambulance rides to, you know, get straightened out because the concentration level.
They don't know what they're getting.
They said it's not your grandpa's THC anymore. It's a whole different world now. And what they said was like 3% concentration on the marijuana of the 70s, and now it's like 90-some% in that oils. And it's like these kids, you know, they get a hold of that, and they're just having an issue with that. The other thing is we had talked with the Sheriff Derringer was there a little bit, talked about SROs. A few schools are going up for a second SRO, which is good because if we're trying to combat a problem, maybe need more resources. Granted, we can't go in Hennepin County, and they've been kind of a barrier in Rockford School anyway, because the high school's in Hennepin County. But we're trying to, they did have a member of the Sheriff's Department there, and did say he was going to go back and make it a point to Sheriff Hutchinson about this, that, you know, you can try to get these things solved if you throw a little resources at it. But Hennepin County's got a different challenge than we do. But again, with the leadership there at Rockford, they were they're pleased with what Wright County's response to everything going on there, and the assets we brought to the table to help them deal with their issues.
I know in Rogers, we don't go in there with our deputies, but the city of Rogers has their own people, but we're involved in their safe schools in Rogers. And you're right about the vaping. That's a big concern there also.
That's the issue, because Greenfield or Rockford does not have their own police department, so that's a Hennepin County thing, and that we just can't go in there.
Well, I know on tomorrow's agenda in the Personnel Committee, that is one of the things that's on the agenda for tomorrow. Discussions about SROs with the Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, staffing level. Like I say, we got to do everything we can to help these kids have a chance for a decent life. And like I say, when you have the crisis, you got to deal with it. And when this one passes, another one will come up. Just know it.
Yeah, it's just unprecedented. They've never, the administrators and school officials have just never seen anything like this with the vaping. And yeah, so we got to get a handle on it.
Administrator Kelly, got anything to add today?
Just on the staff side, we've been doing a lot of work with our new rollout of Office 365 and the security enhancements, so been communicating that out and trying to get staff all converted over. So if you haven't done so yet, please touch base with me. We'll get you guys taken care of today.
I tried. I think I need to be a little smarter.
Willing to help you out there, so.
What happened, or why was the decision made? Was there a particular issue?
Well, we've rolled out a enhanced license, which has a lot more security filtering features, so finding more potential vulnerabilities. So we've advanced our schedule a little bit on the multi-factor authentication, which you probably are familiar with if, you know, a lot of your banks and those types of institutions already have this type of thing. So I just thought it'd be good to roll it out earlier, get it going, so.
Even the state of Minnesota has it. When I try to pay my sales tax online, they have it.
Sure.
Which I really wish somebody would try and pay my sales tax. Just don't get it on that certain.
It's not easy.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out why there. If somebody wants to pay my sales tax, they're more than welcome to.
Sure.
I don't have a problem with it.
I don't know that as well.
Now I forgot what I was going to say. So yeah, once we get today, then we'll be able to, by Thursday or Friday, we'll be able to what, do our emails online again?
Correct, yep. Yep, so.
How did you live a whole weekend without email, huh?
It was the quietest weekend I've had in a while.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much I did that on the weekend.
Yep.
But it made for a no fun
know.
day yesterday, though.
Every day's a fun day.
Well, I have other emails to deal with, so I really didn't miss it too much.
You didn't miss it too much? All right.
So with that.
Well, then I guess if there's no other items to discuss, it is 10:37. We will adjourn for today.